But hypothetically, JJ, if we were to do a Biden replacement tier list,
okay,
I wonder how that would go. Speak of the devil. Here we have a list of all of the presumptive potential Democratic candidates. This is, well, we'll go through one at a time. You might see some familiar faces on here. So let's start, JJ. Well, I'll pass it over to you, and then I'll give my commentary. So Gavin Newsom. Where does Gavin Newsom if Biden were to drop out?
I think he'd be a strong candidate. I think he's a very effective communicator. So if Biden's greatest liability is that he's just bad at communication, which is, I think, what it is, I think that Newsom seems like the best anti-Biden in that way. I think he's a very strong communicator. People can like him or hate him, but I think he speaks well. He speaks forcibly. I think that he would love to go head to head with Trump. I think he would be a very, like, seeing him and Trump on a debate stage together, I think would really thrill a lot of Democrats. He has a somewhat unlikable personality that I think would be a turn off, to put it gently. So, but I think he'd probably be pretty strong. I'm tempted to put him in A tier.
I would agree, A tier. Because to your point, juxtaposed against against Trump. Well, certainly juxtaposed against Biden, that would be like literally everything. All of the worst parts of Biden are removed with Newsom, right? And so if you believe that Trump's senility and his utter, walking corpseness is the biggest barrier, then I think he's A tier. I've heard apparently he would have trouble in the swing states because everyone hates California. I wonder why. But okay.
California isn't a bed of roses either. He would have to answer for a lot of problems in his state. And, I think the Republicans would probably not hate running against the governor of California.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. This is Tim Tebow, or who is this?
I'm actually not sure who that is. I'm not
Are you
familiar.
joking? That's Andy Bashir or Bashir or whatever.
Oh, Andy Bashir. Okay.
You made
the governor of
because I didn't know who Josh Shapiro was when I was texting you who's going to be in this list.
Yes.
Like, you don't know who the governor of Pennsylvania? Who is this?
No.
Who's Andy Bashir?
Okay, so that's Andy Bashir. He's the governor. He's the Democrat governor of Kentucky. So he would be a strong, and a lot of people are sort of floating his name because, he's like a Southern guy, Southern accent, he's from obviously a red state. So his flavor of Democratic politics, by virtue of that fact, has to be somewhat more moderate and nuanced. And he knows how to talk to red state voters. He knows how to come off as sort of like a centrist, right? So in that sense, he's very much the opposite of Gavin Newsom, who is like a product of, blue America through and through. Gavin Newsom, former, mayor of San Francisco, for instance. Whereas Andy Bashir is somebody who comes from a very different sort of tradition in the Democratic Party. And so if the thinking is that you want a candidate who will be as unoffensive as possible and very safe and appealing theoretically to, I think, a lot of sort of like culturally conservative voters who might be really down on the woke stuff and all that, and might be apprehensive about Kamala Harris because, she reads as being sort of part of the kind of more culturally left-wing faction of the party, he would be a very safe bet. I think, though, that he is not very exciting. I think he's pretty dull. He's obviously not known. And I think there's also a risk that he might seem too culturally conservative, right? Like, I think there's a lot of faction of the Democratic Party that doesn't really want to have the country run by a Southern governor. So I would put him maybe in the C tier.
I don't even know who he is. And I would say, if you believe, again, what's the strategy? Is it Trump is so repulsive that we just need someone who can eke out a sentence, which is not Biden, and will win? In that case, fine. On the other hand, if you believe the modern presidential political landscape is dominated by media frenzies and media, sensationalism.
Yeah.
I don't even know who this guy is. So we'll keep him at C2. Dean Phillips.
Okay, so Dean Phillips was the congressman who ran against President Biden in the Democrat primary.
They hate him.
He didn't get a lot of yeah, he didn't get a lot of publicity. He didn't get a lot of attention. Yeah, and he was widely scorned. People were saying, what are you doing? Why are you wasting time? He actually went very hard against Biden as well. He didn't spend as much time talking about Trump as he did talking about Biden, which also got him a lot of bad press. But I'm sure he probably feels pretty vindicated now because a lot of his arguments were age-based and were based on the idea that there should be a generational change. So, and the fact that he's an experienced campaigner at this point, I mean, he probably doesn't have a huge campaign infrastructure, but in theory, he has been a national candidate before. So, you know, maybe C tier. I mean, he's probably got a lot of bad blood. A lot of Democrats probably still do resent him, but I don't know. What is your thought?
He did a podcast with Jordan Peterson.
Oh,
that's all I know, and I didn't watch it. So I don't know. He's willing to talk to people on the right.
Yeah.
C tier?
Yeah, maybe. I'd say C tier.
That's fine. Okay.
Okay.
Do you know who this
here
is?
We have this is noted internet man Vosh, who my buddy J-Reg was just campaigning with for Jamal Bowman in New York City.
They were shit talking me. Did you see that? Did you see J-Reg and them?
I did not.
Me? Oh,
no!
Disgusting anti-centrist propaganda. We won't get into it. That's fine.
Well,
my detractors are not worth getting in the way of a good tier list.
Okay. Well, I
Vosh,
mean,
what do you think? What's his electability?
Okay. Here's my take on Vosh.
Okay,
For starters, Vosh has absolutely no qualifications to be president of the United States whatsoever. And I think that's not nothing.
Right.
Well, I mean, Biden was a senator for 40 years and vice president, which I would say is a little bit more than just being some internet man.
Okay.
So that experience does matter to me. Qualifications for the job does matter to me. And I would also say that Vosh could not even help Jamal Bowman, get elected in like a plus 20 Democrat district in like Brooklyn, New York. So I would say that Vosh's skills at political persuasion are not the best in the world.
Okay, first off, he did the plus 20. It was a Democratic primary, so it's the fact that they went plus 20 points for Trump is irrelevant because it was an internal primary debate, and AIPAC put $15 million in that. And despite all of my criticism of AIPAC, I actually don't think you can blame AIPAC for that. I think Jamal Bowman is a dweeb who pulled the fire alarm and doesn't know what he's doing. So this is what happens when you elect fools. I would put Vosh probably, honestly, I think he's in B tier. And the reason is he's my dark horse candidate.
Is that so?
Anyway, it's an inside joke that
I get it.
You surely will have no knowledge of. Okay. Rod Blagojevich, governor of Illinois.
That's not Rod Blagojevich. That's J.D. Pritzker, or whatever his name is. How do you say it? It's your state.
J.B. Pritzker.
Yeah.
What do you think? You know much about him?
I don't know that much about him. I mean, I think
he's a billionaire.
I mean, he's from Illinois.
He's from families in, I think, the United States. I'll double check that now. But
yeah, from what I've seen, he's a pretty good communicator. I mean, it doesn't seem like he offers much sort of strategic benefit to the ticket. He's from such a solidly blue state. I mean, he doesn't really seem to have much of a national profile. So I don't know what is the case for him. I'm not.
I don't know. He has a net worth of $3.5 billion as of 2024.
Okay.
And the Democrats have an awful bench, so this is who they're dealing with. So, what do we say? C tier, like these other goons that nobody knows.
Yeah, I mean, I would be inclined to put him in D tier just because I think his strategic benefits are very minimal.
That's fair. He if you don't know who he is, you can't evaluate him on his rhetoric. But I mean, he seems like he can. Like if he was toe to toe with Trump, it would be, it'd be like two mob bosses going at each other. Which, it could. So I'm gonna keep him in C tier just for that.
Okay.
And I'm from Illinois and I've seen some of his shit.
Yes.
This is, don't tell me, this is Jeffrey Dahmer.
You were just yelling about him earlier.
Josh Shapiro.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
So Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania.
Okay. Same deal with Bashir, some moderate dweeb that nobody cares about.
I mean, No, I would put him in a B tier, just because I think so. He's a very popular governor of Pennsylvania. He's dramatically outperforming Biden in every poll, as a lot of Democrats across the country are. So he's well liked. He's well liked in his own state. And so I think that if the Democrats just kind of like want to brute force a victory, I think it would make sense for them to just install popular swing state governors at the top of the ticket. And so, because like, if you're just trying to like, okay, we just need to wrap up, we just need to get Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, bada bing, bada boom, then we're in, right? Then I think that there's a strong case to be made for just sticking a popular swing state politician in the ticket. And I think Josh Shapiro fits that criteria. I think Pennsylvania seems like it's a real must-win state for Biden. So from a strategic perspective, anything that gets them closer to rebuilding that blue wall is, I think, in their interests.
Yeah, for any of these people who don't have any large name recognition, the key factor would be, can you build a media campaign in the span of 5 months? Can you do a media blitz and give great name recognition and clips and stuff? And I don't know. So I'll trust your judgment, put him in B tier. All right, your absolute best friend, Steven.
So my best friend Destiny.
Yeah. Where's he
going? My podcast companion. I mean, Destiny also has no political skills he has no political experience whatsoever.
I'm sorry, what? Wait, did JJ McCullough just say Destiny has no political skills? Oh, you're screwed, bro. You're screwed now.
No, Destiny has plenty of political skills. He's very talented as a debater,
propagandist. Yes.
I mean, yeah, but he has no experience or qualifications to be president of the United States.
That's the best qualification for president, is having no experience or qualifications.
Is that so? Could you imagine Destiny, my fellow Americans in the Oval Office after there's like a school shooting or something? Like, is he going to bring the country together with his fatherly disposition? I don't think so. So. And Destiny has a very distinctive personality. I don't mind it, but I could definitely see it not being everybody's cup of tea. So I might have to put him in a C tier.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with D tier for Destiny.
D tier.
Let's. I don't
want to bite the hand that feeds me.
I think that's fair. I think his public. I think if you compiled the top 10 worst clips of Destiny and played them on repeat, that would be a very effective anti-Destiny campaign, as it would be against other people. But I think even Destiny would agree. It would be particularly.
Why are you ranking Vosh? Why are you ranking Vosh so high relative to Destiny? That feels pretty unfair.
Well, because Vosh is my dark horse candidate. That's terrible. Anyway,
terrible.
Lucifer. Where does she go?
Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton,
otherwise known as Jeffrey Epstein's sister-in-law, effectively, because of how close her husband was with him. But anyway,
people, of all of the names being raised as possible replacements for Biden, I have not heard anyone seriously float Hillary Clinton, but that might be a mistake. I mean, I do sort of like wonder. Hillary Clinton's obviously very unpopular, but her approval numbers have gone up since she lost the election. So you got to wonder, like, is there any cohort of Americans that would take that do-over? Like, is there any cohort of Americans who...
The 17% that said Biden won the debate against Trump, they'd vote for Hillary. I promise you that.
Yeah, but like, in all honesty, she's obviously could be a bad decision. I mean, would be an extraordinarily high-risk pick just because she's tried it and failed. Like, unlike Biden himself, she has not proven that she can effectively win an election against Trump. So you would have to, like, it would be a severe, severe gamble to side with somebody whose the only expectation of any of these people is, can you beat Trump? And Hillary, if she was giving a job interview saying, we're looking for someone who can beat Donald Trump, who has not been able to pass that test, right? So I would have to put her in D tier.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, I think, what do I think? I think that I'm going to put her in D tier because she's the worst and awful. And I think, honestly, she'd be hard to reach, especially by email. I'm stealing that from Zach Galifianakis, by the way. That's not my joke. I listen. I let people know when I plagiarize their jokes. Okay. According to Barack Obama, a man who is too short and too gay to be president. Pete Buttigieg.
Oh, Pete Buttigieg. Buttigieg is.
Hold on, wait. Did you not hear Obama said that?
I did not hear that.
Apparently, and what's his name? Connor from Counterpoints said this. So if I'm wrong, blame him. But I did look at the article. Okay. Apparently, Obama said to some donors that Pete Buttigieg is short and gay, and therefore he can't win an election. Now, far be it from Obama to say that type of shit. But anyway, I just thought that would be a funny way to introduce our absolute boy, Mayor Pete. What do you think, JJ? I mean,
I'm a fan of Mayor Pete. I think that he has some of the same skills as Newsom in the sense that he's very articulate. He is a good debater. He can prosecute the case against Trump pretty effectively. I mean, I do think that he's probably like better in his role as a cabinet secretary and, just a surrogate, as they say, for the campaign as opposed to a campaigner himself. He obviously has never won any sort of substantial elected office beyond mayor of South Bend, Indiana. So I think, and again, like he lost the primary to Biden. So again, like his political skills, I think, are somewhat suspect. I feel like he could be a good president someday, but I feel like now is not his time. So I would rank him like C tier.
That's fair. He lost to Biden because they rigged the primaries for Biden. That's not his fault. I would say he is a robot that has no human emotions, it seems like, when he talks. And I believe he has a very big problem with the black vote. I believe he, for one reason or another, I think he was polling at like 0 or 1% with black voters during the primaries. And if he were president, 30% of the black vote would go to Trump. Or if they were running, that would be my prediction, which I will never have to own up on because it won't happen. But yeah, I agree. I don't know. Weird. Let me ask you a question, JJ. As a member of the LGBTQIA 2+ SS XXY plus community, do you think that a gay person can become president nowadays?
Oh yeah, I really do. I don't think that kind of prejudice. I think that like the prejudice of the American voter is, I think, like a really overstated thing, and I think it's just something that people kind of just lazily assert, like that. Oh, they would never vote for a gay man or a woman of color or this, that, or the other thing. I think that at this point, like most Americans are pretty open-minded about this kind of stuff. And I think that like most Americans just think about the nature of the candidate. Maybe I'm naive in saying that, but I mean, when you look at, like the kind of people that are in Congress now, the kind of people that are governors, that are mayors, that are senators, like it's a pretty diverse bunch on both the right side and the left side. I was looking the other day, there's I think there's like 3 or at least 2 gay governors right now. So it's like, it's just this kind of stuff is this identity politics stuff. Like people still resent it, but I think that like there's not that many people when it comes to a politician who are making their decision to vote against someone on identity politics screens.
You think a Hindu could be president? You think Vivek Ramaswamy or Tulsi Gabbard could be president?
Oh yeah, I think anybody could be president. I really do. I think it could be. I think that where the difficulty comes in is on a kind of like meta level, though, where it's like, could like a gay president and vice president get elected? Like maybe not. I think that starts to sort of test people's
that's a little too gay, even for JJ. That's a little guys. This ticket. But it's like it's pretty gay. Well, we can't do this.
It reads differently. It's like the same thing. Like people have said, like, well, what if there was 2 women? And like, I think that at that point it starts to read as like politically correct, and like people are maybe a little apprehensive about that. But maybe I'm wrong about that too. Maybe that's just a different sort of conventional wisdom that's not really based on anything.
That's fair. They can call it the rainbow ticket if they put 2 gays on the ticket. Okay. Next up, she fell right out of a coconut tree and she exists in the context. She is clearly the front runner. So let's take into account the fact that logistically, she's the most likely to be the replacement with all the war chest stuff. So with that into account, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like because I've been sort of reading a lot of the progressive commentary on this, who are all like super, super in favor of Biden dropping out, I've been subjected to a lot of sort of Kamala Harris propaganda recently that like, oh, she's not so bad. She'd actually be a very strong candidate and we should all unite behind her and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I think there's something to that. I think that she would be the smoothest transition. I think that she would sort of be the natural leader in a way that would probably not be contested the way that some of these other people would be sort of contested. I think that sort of strategically she would make sense as well, because for the people that are still loyal to Biden, she wouldn't sort of represent a kind of coup. And she also wouldn't represent, and I think this is significant just talking about identity politics and all that, she wouldn't represent a coup by like some white guy that no one's ever heard of, right? She would represent a kind of natural ascension to power. And, the Democrats do rely very heavily on the votes of women of color and women in general. And so I think that, having a black woman at the top of the ticket would probably be helpful as far as that goes.
Do you think that, black women base their voting decision on whether or not the people they're voting for are black?
No, I don't think that, but I do think that there's probably a lot of black women that would feel, something was up in not a good way if, say, the first black vice president in American history was just usurped, kind of kicked to the side, and then like just Gavin Newsom or Josh Shapiro or whoever was just installed in her place. I think that there would be kind of there is a kind of narrative among women of color, I think not unjustifiably so, that they get passed up too often for jobs that they're qualified for, and that their skills are kind of underestimated and stuff. And I think that's like it's the same with like we all have.
Do you hang out with a lot of women of color, JJ, in which this narrative comes up pretty often?
I think so. I mean, I don't hang out with a lot. I've heard it said before.
That's fine. That's fair.
No, I mean,
listen, I also repeat things that have been said repeatedly to the point where I believe them. It happens.
No, but the point is that she does sort of seem like a very sort of like low friction candidate. She seems like someone that keeps the coalition together and does the least harm. She's the least risky, but also the least exciting.
That's fair. I would put her solidly in B tier. Now, here's the thing. I'll be honest with you. Cringe, obviously, very cringe woman. Very. But you know what? Some of those edits, a Kamala Harris edit, some of those like with the music over it and they're cutting her, like those go pretty hard. And people make fun of her for the whole coconut tree thing. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context that you're in. It's like
you're pretty good impression.
That's pretty true. That's like technically true. In fact, it's arguably a very sophisticated metaphysical point, because everything we do cannot be extracted from the context that it's in. We get into Ian McGilchrist left hemisphere versus right hemisphere type stuff. We won't do that now. But my point is, I've noticed in myself, like, all right, I like it. Let's see what happens. Put it up. Let's see what happens. So I would say B tier.
Yeah, it's interesting how much her reputation seems to have improved in just the last 2 weeks. Where even Paul himself is now playing defense for her skills.
That's when things are interesting. All right, the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer.
Yes,
sounds like
Gretchen Whitmer is basically.
Oh, go ahead.
She's basically like the other side of the Josh Shapiro dream team. She's a very popular governor from a very critical must-win sort of swing state. She's just, I don't know, politically talented, liked in her state, a must-win state. So again, it's this kind of like brute force kind of strategy. It's just like, you like her, we need to win that state. Here, have your popular governor. She can be president. Why not? So.
And she's the one that kind of comes up. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. And she's the one that sort of comes up in the context of like the Kamala, or sort of the two women on the ticket kind of thing, where it's like, well, she and Kamala like would be a sort of a good sort of dream team, but then it's like, two women, are Americans ready for that? A woman president and vice president? So I mean, I don't know, but that is something that people say.
Well, let me ask myself if I'm ready.
I think she's a very strong candidate. I would put her in B tier as well.
I think so. I think she's also B tier. In fact, people liked her so much they tried to kidnap her. Oh wait a second. Wait a minute. Correct me if I'm wrong, JJ. That was a psyop. Am I right? Or I actually don't even recall.
I don't have time.
It's so funny. That's fine. Me neither. Just a side note, real quick, because people always accuse me of being a right-wing fascist. And let me be clear.
Yeah.
I don't care about any of the talking points that the right wing use. Like, I could come at this with just here's all the best points the right wing says. I try to pull the best points that they say. I'm pretty sure the kidnapping was complete fucking bullshit, and that was a whole made up story. I could be wrong. I'm not even gonna look into it right now.
Well, there was a whole trial about it. You should, yeah. I mean, it was adjudicated in a court of law. So if you're interested in learning more about this, you can
look at that. Okay,
you can study the case.
We'll see if I need to do that, or if I will regret not having looked it up and pressed you harder on the psyop that it was. Anyway, we're almost done. Now here's the question. No, you're gonna ask. You said, would America be ready for two women candidates? And so I asked myself, would America be ready for two women candidates? Tulsi Gabbard, Tulsi Gabbard, Christine. Tulsi Gabbard, Ivanka Trump. Yeah, that's a ticket, my friend. Ticket to the White House. Yikes. So interesting. We've been talking for an hour and 50 minutes, and as soon as I mention a ticket with two women, you say yikes.
We were like the two worst women politicians in America.
So great? Isn't it so great, JJ, that I'm not actually a leftist? Anyway, continue. What were you saying? Gretchen
Whitmer is sort of problematic in the sense of what I was just talking about earlier, and sort of the narrative about a job being taken from a black woman, right? Because if Gretchen Whitmer became the presidential candidate and not Kamala Harris, then I think like the race and gender politics could be a source of some division on the left-wing base that the Democrats do have to keep appeased.
That is so shitty for the Democrats that they have to deal with that nonsense. The Republicans have to deal with their Christian Zionist and pro banning contraceptive crowd. So everyone has their crazies. If only, JJ, there was an enlightened centrist ticket. But anyway, Richie Torres. He is the current Democratic minority leader. Am I right? House minority leader?
I'm not very familiar with who this person is.
Well, JJ, I'll happily educate you as I normally do with these streams, but I believe he is the House minority leader. And I don't mean because he's black.
Okay. Well, the majority leader is black as well, so that wouldn't.
The majority.
Or sorry, not the majority leader. Yeah, no. Hakeem Jeffries is the Democrat leader in the House. So you're saying that this person is like the deputy leader?
I thought Richie Torres had some significant person. Maybe not.
I feel bad that I do not know who this person is. Are you just getting? Did you just get two black guys confused?
Maybe I just confused
random black politicians. You're thinking of Hakeem Jeffries, who's the Democrat.
We'll be right back. Technical difficulty. Excuse me, everyone. Let me pull up my. Okay, well then we'll ignore Richie Torres. Well, hold on. Can Hakeem can the Speaker of the House? I guess they can still run. He can still run, right? Hold on. Richie Torres is the guy from New York, right?
Yeah. It's just like a New York.
Yeah, I was
Democrat.
watching. I was watching your favorite YouTube channel, Breaking Points, and he had some choice words about the Israel-Palestine conflict, I believe. He refers to Israel as the sixth borough, I believe. And I, for some reason, thought he was more significant. But anyway, speaking of black people, the ultimate black person right now, apparently, who's perhaps literal, I mean, not literal, well, dark horse, you know, dark, obviously, who literally she could come out of nowhere and just fucking take it all the way. Do you think the Obama name has the power that the Trump name has with Republicans?
Well, from what I understand, she polls extremely well. Like, she polls huge numbers because, sorry, you just cut out too. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you said she polls very, very well.
Yeah, so she polls extremely well relative to all the other candidates, in part because she has personal name recognition, and then she also has the Obama name. And Obama is the most popular former president in America currently living. People are very nostalgic about the Obama years, even a significant number of Republicans, clearly, or she wouldn't be polling quite so well. And so in that sense, like, on one level, she seems like the most preposterous candidate because, of course, she's just the first lady. She hasn't sort of done anything political in the last, the 8 years that she and her husband have been out of office. She was not even known, I think, to be a particularly politically engaged first lady, the way that, say, Hillary Clinton was. So it feels a little bit like people have just kind of made up a fantasy character that Michelle Obama is, that does not really sort of seem correlated with who Michelle Obama is, the person. But again, this is another sort of like brute force kind of thing. I heard somebody say this on a podcast the other day, right? It's like, if you believe that Trump represents the end of the American experiment, if he represents an existential threat to American democracy and the liberal order and all the rest of it, then you kind of just got to do whatever it takes to win. And if Michelle is the most popular of all of these people, then why not make her president, right? You can staff the administration, do everything else, but like, if the goal is to just get Trump out, then you can't be so fussy about political qualifications and all the rest of that. So from that perspective, I would have to say A tier.
A tier? You know what I'm going to say, JJ? And because I'm the one with control?
What?
S tier.
Yeah.
Michelle Obama.
S tier.
If she came out, listen, you would have, listen, here's the thing. Here's what I think the media landscape is.
Yeah.
You have 5 months. Blow up social media. Blow up the media. Friend Michelle Obama everywhere. Oh my God. The absolute dignity and charm and excellence and sophistication that Barack Obama brought to the office, we can return to it, and this time in female form, and the future is female, and all that stuff about black women and identity politics and all that stuff. Perfect. And the other thing, her husband is still the president. Obviously, Barack Obama's calling the shots. I mean, if you just look at the video of when, like, there was one video of Obama and Biden and a bunch of Democrat, operatives and people at a event, and everyone's hanging out over by Obama. He's like talking up everything, and Biden's kind of wandering around. It's like, we know who the real person in power is. But anyway, so she's got experience already. Her husband can just, he's been, I think grooming is the wrong word, but maybe it is grooming her for presidency, right? That's the positive use of that word, I think. So I say she's S tier. I think the Democrats should cash in, because think about it. Oh my God. That's such a different change. It's like, yeah, right now it's a change, but once we're 3 months in and you've been fed all of the Michelle Obama stuff and the messaging's been perfected, you'll be like, of course I can see Michelle. Not only can I see it, we'll do it. And I think she would kick ass, because everyone who hates Obama, probably is not voting for Biden anyway, or maybe I don't know, but
no, it's interesting. I don't know, it's just really interesting to think about, isn't it? And it sort of says something about sort of the smallness of the imagination of traditional political sort of observers, right? Because it's like, everything that you said makes so much sense. And like, objectively, she would be the most energizing, like it would be the most dramatic. It would completely upend the race. Everybody would be sort of like, a lot of people would be like really excited and enthusiastic. And the polling data suggests that she would win easily. And it's just kind of weird that something as obvious, sort of a cheat code as obvious as running Michelle Obama, is somehow never really seriously entertained, even though it seems obvious. You know what it kind of reminds me of is, I remember once reading, I forget what the context was, but like a guy was sort of saying, like, talking about hockey. And he's like, well, why don't the hockey teams just get like the world's fattest man to be their goalie? because then no pucks would come in. And then when you sort of propose that, people are like, oh, that is a stupid idea. Obviously, we would not do that. Even though there's no actual like objective arguments against it, it's just like, well, that's just not what we do. We just wouldn't do that, right? And I kind of feel like Michelle Obama, it's the same sort of way. It's like, obviously she would win the election, but we're not going to make her the candidate. We'll make, one of these other governors or whatever, and we'll just kind of hope that that all works out. So it is kind of weird how, and that's why I think like the argument where it's like, if you really believe that this is the make or break election for America, why wouldn't you do the one surefire thing that would win? I guess the only sort of real counter argument is that Michelle herself doesn't want to do it. So you would have to persuade her.
Yeah.
Maybe she needs to realize that this is the moment of her calling.
I think it could happen. Because here's the thing, everyone that hates, everyone who, like, people would really hate, like, another Obama in office. Like, oh my God. But those people are already going to vote for Trump anyway. So, also, your analogy with the hockey thing, I like where you're going with that. But I don't think there's any human being fat enough who can block the whole goalie. So that's like a literal impossibility. This is not a literal impossibility, but I get your point. It's like a far out idea. And you know who else was a far out idea? And you know who? I made a bet with some kid back in college that said $100.
Yeah.
Trump never is not only actually, he said before Trump had even won the primary, this is at the very beginning when everyone hated Trump, that not only would he win the primary, he'd beat Hillary Clinton. And I paid him off $100. So if Trump was a dark horse candidate back then, I think Michelle Obama could absolutely be it.
I definitely think that I think the dream scenario, and I've often sort of like thought how the optics of this would have to work. I think the dream scenario would have to be, you'd have to get all of these big shot Democrats to, with Biden, with Kamala Harris, like have some sort of big photo op in the White House, and then just all sort of be saying like, look, we've all decided that it's going to be Michelle or it's going to be whoever. Like basically there has to be a big show of unity right off the bat. People have to sort of be able to present this as a kind of fait accompli, because I think that's the Democrats' best interest, as opposed to, some sort of big cantankerous open primary with all these different characters all fighting it out and doing a debate on a stage hosted by CNN. Like that seems like the wrong.
Why would we trust the people to choose the candidate? We should let the oligarchs decide. I agree in some ways, JJ. I have one more. But this is sneaky candidate here.
Oh, it's me, JJ. Well, of course,
Canadian shill for Big Pharma, the military industrial complex. JJ, if you were one of the chosen people, one of God's actual chosen people, Americans, and you were running for office, where do you think you put yourself, JJ?
If I was a natural born citizen, well, I mean, I have no political experience, so I feel like that would be a mark against me.
Trump.
I've lived all of my life in a foreign country. I don't have a very high media profile. I was a member of the failing Washington Post, so and I'm also I'm gay, so I couldn't run on the Buttigieg ticket.
That's right. That would be that as even that would be too gay. Let's hear the good though. Let's hear. But
the good is I think I'm a pretty good computer. I have a bunch of what say?
Funko Pops.
Oh yes, well the Funko Pops will definitely win the heart of Middle America. So.
I'd put you next to.
I'm obviously.
I think Obama. I think Obama McCullough. Obama McCullough. That would be a solid ticket.
Obama McCullough flows right off the tongue.
Yes. Obama McCullough.
Okay. Well,
it sounds like some.
Thank you for your pity.
No. It's all pure, objective pure cold calculating political analysis, JJ. Much like you are adept at yourself.
Will my controversial Annex Canada platform resonate with?
I think that America? Would. Yeah, I think actually people would be like, somebody hates the French. I hate the French. Yeah, let's do it. Your Quebecois extremism would play well with the Trump base. Okay, well, JJ, this is our tier list. We should. The fact that we're doing this publicly and just giving this information to the DNC is really, I know, really says something a lot about our character. And how much public service we're doing.
Let me ask you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you have any final thoughts?
What do you think is? Yeah. My final thoughts is like, what do you think is the likelihood that this happens? Like, what is the likelihood that Biden steps down, would you say, as a percentage?
28.
28%?
28%.
I would sort of say maybe.
Well, I
think that's a pretty good.
He came out with a statement saying, "I'm running." I mean, I think it was today, actually. Yeah. Actually, I had the thing. I was going to pull that up. It was.
He's done it a few times. He wrote a big letter. He wrote a big letter to congressional Democrats today. But previously he said a number of things like, "Let me be perfectly clear." Like he's said it repeatedly, and it's like some people. I am.
Sorry.
Oh, that's your Biden impression. I thought you were just having a panic attack.
Well, one and the same.